Omid and Kojo Show.
Hello, baby.
Hello, sexy. Got a little Heineken today. Little
Oh,
Saturday night treat.
I got a little beer as well.
Yes, geezer.
You're looking fresh-faced. What's going on?
Thanks. I had a really hot bath this morning.
Oh, lovely. They changed the day. They
Yeah.
really changed the day.
When it's like a sauna bath, like I got that
Yeah,
sauna sensation. I came out, I was sweating for like an hour afterwards. That was good shit.
Swag. All right, before we get into any discussion, let's do an intro. So, welcome back to the Omid Kojo Show. We've run episode 9 now, or 8. But, yo, we're
9.
We're getting
Get
it done.
through it. Yeah.
Yeah. Today we're going to be talking about all kinds of beardness, flips. Me running is probably going to come up. And Kojo and his gainer switches are probably going to come up because he's been doing some ridiculous things.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Also, you're going to have to bear with me today because my brain's not working properly at the moment. So, yeah.
But Omid, you need mustache. You bring the mustache back.
I think with no facial hair, I think I look around 10 years younger. It's
You
great.
actually do.
Yeah.
Young man, Omid. Okay, so anyone who's watching can chime in on this. I want to know, what would you like to know about a gainer switch? What don't you know that you'd like to know? Omid, let's say you were watching a video about gainer switch. Tell me some things that you'd like to be included in it. I want to make sure I'm covering all my bases and I've got everything.
You mean for my personal gainer switch, or just for a good tutorial?
Just for a really good tutorial, or for your gainer switch. I don't know. Just what information would you want in it?
Okay, well, for me personally, I think that's a good way to go for the people commenting and stuff. Like, say what your biggest problems are, and then you can kind of allocate what kind of information needs to be in there. But
Yeah.
for me personally, it's probably mainly the aesthetic, but that kind of feeds into the efficiency of it. Because when I do gainer switch now, for some reason over the years, I've slowly gone from doing it pretty much like this to doing this and this and this, and now my back and my hips are just like I've become the letter C in my gainer switch, and I'm just trying to avoid that at all costs.
Well, that's one of the you did make me think of something, because that's one of the main things like covered in it. But I didn't really talk about aesthetics that much. I'm mainly talking about functionality, controlling travel and speed, and being able to do more and all of that stuff. So I will include a little bit about that functionality.
Well, I think a good way to go is having like maybe 2 or 3 main aesthetics that you think look really good, but that are slightly different, and that you can still be super efficient with, but
there's not that much you can really play with. It's only really the swing leg, like, that you can actually play with. Like, everything else is just down to like how much back flexibility you have and how good your technique is. It's not gainer switch is one of those where there's not a load of different really efficient ways to do it. There's like, you can do it good and you can do it bad. Same with like gym, because it's so similar to gymnastic whips. Like, you can do them the most efficient way, or you can do them a less efficient way. And it's kind of like that with gainer switch to some extent. Let me just check out a couple of these comments. So someone said, like, I slow down a lot. Yeah, that is definitely covered. What's stopping me from getting my maximum height? I talk about why you shouldn't be trying to get maximum height in a gainer switch. So plenty of that. How to not lose momentum. Yeah. How to not land looking straight at the ground. You should be looking at the ground when you land. You should be spotting the ground so that your chest is leant forwards in your landing. And then when you take off, you're going to lean backwards. So you should be spotting the ground. What kills your flip? Covered. Yeah. How high must you swing your leg before swapping legs? Covered. Yeah. I like
definitely. You should definitely mention Martin Drumev being naked in there if you can.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, Martin Drumev nudes in the tutorial.
already got a 20-minute segment on my Traverse nudity.
I just need to add a little bit about aesthetics. I think that's what's missing. Is there anything else you can think of? What would, for the best Gain & Switch tutorial ever, like what obscure things could you include that would be useful? What have you ever wondered about, or other people have asked you about with it?
The difference between doing it out of something, well, not the difference, I guess.
Out of like twisting setups and straight over the top.
Yeah, the approach, the best approach to doing it out of different types of moves, maybe like super high level moves, like the approach that you've got to have to doing your Gain & Switch out of a triple full is going to be different to the mental approach that you're going to have when doing it out of another Gain & Switch, as an example.
Covered it.
Okay.
Yeah. I've covered that quite a bit.
Is that what does that include? Awkward tricks?
Well, I'm not going to talk about how to do it out of every single trick.
No, I know, but like
it would be days long.
You said everything. You said obscure things.
Well, so, someone said a Gain & Switch is more about blocking or swinging. The answer is both. Really, yeah, it's both. I pretty much said, Omid, like the difference between doing it out of setups when you're twisting into it, including like a J step and a hop step, your shoulders are turning 90 degrees in your setup compared to setups that are completely straight over the top, like a Gain & Switch. So there are some differences there. But yeah, I think when it comes to triple full and stuff, that you're going to do it the same as if you did it out of a full or a double full.
Yeah,
it's just being good enough at triple full. So I think I've covered the main areas there.
Yeah. No, that sounds good. I mean, to be honest with you, from everything that you've told me prior to this, I highly doubt there's going to be anything that you've missed out.
I just want to make sure it's really, really good, so I'm not making it again. But I've covered most things. It was interesting watching all the other Gain & Switch tutorials, actually. Because there were some good points in some of them. But then some of them were saying things where I'm like, that is why you can't do 10 plus Gain & Switches. And it was like an actual teaching point in the tutorial, but it was like making your Gain & Switch worse.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It just kind of comes back to the discussion about how much importance you kind of have. Sorry, how much importance should be placed on the ability of somebody that's teaching, because with something where there isn't like a current, I don't know, curriculum where I mean, I guess that's what you're trying to do, but you have the knowledge as well and experience, so you're able to draw from other people's experience and information, as well as the information you've built up from being able to do 20 plus Gain & Switches. Yeah,
well, I just think back to myself. Like when I first taught Raise on Kojo's Trick Lab, then I taught it like badly. There were some useful points in it, but it was so much worse than how I teach it now. I barely even mentioned what to do with your arms.
Well, okay, question then.
I wasn't that good at it yet.
Question then, when you first taught these things at that point, do you think that there were ever things that you'd say in tutorials that you now look back and think that's actually kind of counterproductive? Because I definitely have that. There's some things where at the time I'm like, it makes complete sense, but then as the years progress, and this is like literal years, it could be 3 years later and I'm like, fucking hell, how wrong was I?
Yeah, well, I think, I don't know, that's why I'm always remaking tutorials as well. Well, I mean, because you learn more. But there's some things that I say that are kind of half true. And then there's not many, but there is the occasional thing where I'm like, yeah, that's counterproductive. I wouldn't tell that to anyone now. Yeah. And I think that's what you see with a lot of bad YouTube tutorials. People who haven't, like, it's not their whole thing. They're not putting loads of effort into making tutorials. They just crank a few out so that they can get some views on YouTube because it's an easy way. I think you see a lot of those holes and, like, misinformation and stuff like that. Yeah. I think that's an interesting topic in general, because I think, like, it used to be way worse as well. Like, when we started tricking, I remember when I used to watch, like, Kyle Epic Mendoza, his tutorials and stuff. It's like people were so wrong. The things they were saying about cork and stuff like that.
I know. I remember watching all the cork tutorials, and like I'd also be watching the people that were doing cork. And at the time I'd be like, that's so amazing. It's so amazing that they can do cork and they can do it. And it's that high. oh my God, they can land swinging. But then now I'm looking at it and I'm like, because I stumbled across an epic tutorial a while ago, and yeah, it's just it's abysmal, honestly. Like, but it's also the progression of the sport. You know what I mean? Because like with gymnastics, it wasn't like they kind of invented these moves and then things got a little bit better, and then they were like, right, okay, we're gonna write the rule book, and then that's it, and then they've just left it since there. It's been a constant progression, and up to the point where now there is like a defined, this is the best way to do a backhand swing.
Yeah.
And you like they've got the actual science and mechanics of the trick down and understood, so they can just be like, here's the data, this is what you need to do.
And we're still working it out. That's also crazy. Like, tricking, people know a lot more than they used to, but there's still so much left to learn. Like 20 years from now, I wonder how differently we'll look at like a double cork. Maybe the approach to learning it will be completely different.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I would imagine so, because like even look 10 years ago whenever anybody would give tips on a cork, as an example, which is a much lower level move, it was just all over the place.
Yeah. It wasn't going to get you 28 corks like Bailey Payne.
No.
Oh, here's something that's really interesting, actually. So when I was editing the tutorial earlier, one of the parallels I used was front aerial, or like gymnastics front walkover without hands, about the actual rotation you do in the air. Okay. And I took a really good example of a front aerial, and his chest did 45 degrees of rotation in the air. Okay. So that's less than a quarter of a flip in a front aerial. How crazy is that? And that's why stuff like the arch in a gainer switch is so important, because if you're arching properly, then you'll do less than half of a flip. Your chest will take off like leaning backwards like that, and you'll land with your chest like that, or even less if you're flexible enough to like really arch over. Whereas if you're dished, or some people are doing like nearly 360 flip, that's the difference. Like gainer switches that look really hard for people, it's when they take off really upright and they land really upright again. So they're doing like a whole backflip. A really good gainer switch is half of a backflip, which is pretty crazy, or even less than half of a backflip.
Well, this is something I realized only recently. And I've been able to do 10 gainer switches for numerous years. And to be honest, like my gainer switch tech has just kind of changed over the years. And a lot of the reason for it was because of my knee injury. A lot of my tricks just kind of changed, and then I haven't given them the attention that they need to make them as efficient as possible since, which is my bad, obviously. But like, yeah, it's kind of crazy how I've only, like, I realized this while I was on grass the other day. I was like, I need to be trying to put my lips on the ground behind me as quickly as I can, and then just have the rotational power for my legs to do the rotation back to my feet. And then it's going to make it'll look way better, and it will mean that it's way more powerful. But I only really understood that like a few weeks ago.
Well, have you thought about this? What if a truly flexible person, like next level flex, got really into doing gainer switches? Because the way they do like front aerials, you could probably do a gainer switch where in the air you do less than a quarter of a flip. And if someone could do like over splits, so they take off almost over splits, their head is like in an eagle position as they leave the ground, and then as soon as they take off, leg comes back to eagle position. That's perfectly possible. It's just, I think it is possible. There's no flexible person. There's no one that flexible who's training gainer switch. There's never has been. There never has been someone who's artistic gymnast level of flexibility who's put in thousands of reps on gainer switch, which is crazy.
Coming soon.
What?
Kate Nohashi.
If she trained it, she could do it in an insane way.
Well, I'm going to be making this video with her soon, where I teach her how to trick, and gainer switch is going to be one of the things. However, it would take so much work in order to build that strength in the right ways. Like for tricking, because think about all the gymnasts, and also break all the habits that they currently have and build an understanding of like going a different path with their movements. Because what gymnasts have you seen of a high level being able to do swing tricks and make them look like swing tricks?
It's because no one's put in the work for it. Like, I don't think
but...
it's that hot. I think there just hasn't been the right person who's put in the right amount of work. Like Taker's a gymnast, and he's really put in the work on tricking, got really good. And let me just respond to one of these comments. Zenix Tricking says, I think it's possible, but I think it won't be as efficient. Why? Because why? Like, every other extended split leg move gets easier and easier the more flexible you get. Just like an aerial, just like a raise. Why? Gainer switch is way easier for me the more flexible I get, because I've got less of a flip to do in the air. So I don't see why it would be less efficient. But yeah, go on. What are you saying, Mid?
I just had to kind of lean back. My body hurts so much. But yeah, I don't know. I agree with everything you just said. I mean, I don't know. It kind of astounds me when you speak about certain things, like, because at the end of the day, like, it's not every single trick, but your general knowledge of tricking as a whole is so much higher than pretty much anybody I've ever met or known of. And also, what? Shut up.
Not compared to people who are really good. I don't know. Go on.
And also, yeah, but it's different. Like,
it is. I know
it's completely different. Like, being able to break it down to the point where I don't know, the teaching side of it. I'm not necessarily saying. I mean, even so, like, even if you can't do the things with your body, it's because you haven't put the time into it.
True. It's because you have to. Like, if I were to teach things correctly, I have to look at a lot of different people doing them and, like, really understand why you're doing it right. Whereas if it's just you training, you just need to understand how you can do it right. But let me respond to this. Zenix says, because I feel like even though you could whip it to your foot, there'd be too much contact time equals less power. That's my thinking. Also, if you were leaning back that far while you would whip super fast, you'd probably end up blocking at. No, you wouldn't block at a really hard angle because you're whipping. Yeah. So basically, what would happen is it wouldn't matter that you had more contact time, because the amount of flip you get in a gainer switch or a cork, it depends how big your range of motion is while you're on the floor. So if you start off leaning way forwards and you get all the way to leaning way back, you flip really fast and really low. Now, if you were that flexible, then you would do your gainer switches lower than most people would. You'd barely take off the ground. So you take off already kind of seeing your eagle position and then just kick your leg over. And yeah, you'd spend a little longer on your foot, but because of the extra flexibility and how much less of a flip you need to do in the air, they'd still be really easy. So I think you could really easily keep going.
So hang on, let me hear your thoughts on this then, because it seems to me as though there will be like an optimal point in which that kind of back flex will give you the most amount of power into, like, let's say, for example, the goal wasn't just to do rows of switches, it was to do the highest power, the highest amount, to gain the most amount of power out of the gainer switch. I'm assuming there's going to be like an optimal level that isn't just going to be the most flexible version. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, where you've got the most contact time, I'd imagine it's a little bit less than that.
That's true. I don't know about how, if someone's more flexible, if that means they couldn't like have as much power in their body. I can't really talk on that because I just don't know how that'd affect it. But if you're talking about actual functionality of the trick, is that what you mean?
Yeah.
If you were super flexible, then you could come out of your gainer switch with your head almost touching the ground in a full eagle with it way over your head. So you'd like your back leg way up behind you. So you'd have a huge range of motion to swing your leg through, and you'd be able to block from like really low down.
I feel like
efficient.
But I feel like
odd cork. Shosei's head is nearly touching. Shosei's head is that high from the ground when he first makes contact out of touchdown raise to do quad cork. It's incredibly low.
I guess, but wouldn't it once it gets to a certain point though, wouldn't it make it harder to get that block, no matter how flexible you are, just because of the mechanics of the body?
I think your ankles and knees will come into it as well, because I've done like gainer switch triple corks before where I've blocked so much that I need to not block. I like let myself lean backwards more,
Yeah,
and I still land the triple cork, because otherwise it would have been, it's an insane amount of pressure on your leg. So yeah, like, you know, if you did, think of a whip, if you do a whip and you come out of it with your face nearly on the floor, yeah, that's going to block like an insane amount, but can your body take it, you know?
Well, even if your body could take it, I feel like after a certain point, it is just going to end up being kind of detrimental to the trick that you're doing out of it.
Why?
I feel because you have to spend more time on the ground.
Aren't the best touchdown raises the most flexible touchdown raises?
Yeah, true. But my point is, like, no one's ever like, imagine if someone was doing it like the Michael Jackson lean. Like, they had that much. Like, imagine this is where the ground is, and this is where their body is. Like, if they're coming out of it like that, I'm talking like, so I guess if I'm talking real extremes, like if this is where they're coming out, they're gonna have to spend more time on their foot so they can get to this position and then block.
That's true. Okay,
so
there would be a line
that, like, getting it to, like, maybe if, say, this is the current best, and this is what's been done up to now, where they're landing out of the gainer switch with their head around here, then the most would be like here, but then the optimal would be somewhere in between. Correct?
Yeah. No, I think you could block too much as well, because you wouldn't even be able to swing your leg past your plant foot unless you really dipped right down. But then
that would take a bunch of bent leg.
Yeah,
and then it would
so
take away.
So you start to lose like the rebound block momentum.
Yeah. That's all I was saying. Yeah.
So yeah, there would be a certain point, I guess.
But I'd love to know. You see, this is what I'm saying though. Like, in terms of the science behind it and like fully putting it to the test, I'd love to know what that point is.
Because for quint cork, it's gonna
gonna have to be like perfect.
Tiki says he agrees with you. I think if you block too hard, it'll make it. You get too little flip. But like too little flip is what you want if you were going to do a quint cork. Correct. Is the thing. You'd want like no flip.
Well, I guess it depends on the trick.
Could anyone's body take it is the thing. And, you know, you'd have to have, like, if you had the fastest possible setup, some insane touchdown raise Valdez that covers nearly the whole floor, and you were like some little Nick Fry type, and then you block like that.
Yeah, if you were moving at like lightning pace, like faster than any tricker has ever moved.
Yeah, the speed alone would take you round, but you'd have to move. Yeah, you'd have to move at some lightning pace.
Yeah, I'd love to know the statistics of like what, like, just the actual like I'd love real fucking research to be put into like the greats that we currently have, and then every like 5 to 10 years, the next. The point that if they're not the greats, then the next greats, and like just to see what the differences are and see how much power trickers have, the greatest trickers have, compared to like Olympic sprinters like Usain Bolt or like high jumpers and stuff like that.
I don't see. For me, I don't really care how much power the best trickers have. What I'd love is if they made they could do it through some kind of software. If they measured like how much force each muscle or muscle group could exert on a person, how much each part of their body weighed, and then they showed, like, on one of those animation screens, the most efficient way for that human body to do a move. That would be really, really crazy to see.
But it's not just like what I was saying. I agree with what you're saying, but what I meant was it's not just the power that's being put out. It's the amount of force and the amount of like strain that the body can also receive.
True.
Because like once you find that perfect sweet spot and you know the exact angle, and then you really hit shit, and then all of a sudden it's like fucking, I don't know, like a triple gainer with a twist in each flip. It's just been done.
The thing is, we'll see this shit in our lifetime. But going back to the really flexible gainer switch thing, I do agree with you. I think if you take it to the true extreme, if you take it to someone who's way over split, then yeah, I think after a certain point, I agree, it would be detrimental. But I think, like, out of all the people who can do the most gainer switches, none of them are anywhere near the most efficient level of flexibility. That's what I think is all.
Correct. But I wasn't even saying like, this is what I think. I was saying, like, let's discuss, because at the end of the day, like,
we don't know. Yeah,
like,
we're just trying to figure it out.
I mean, I'm just saying that it kind of makes sense to me for that to be the case, and like, I think it's really important to know what the extremes are. So, like, a lot of the time in tutorials and stuff, the main things we go to are what we currently have, and then the worst things that you can do. So you want to avoid the worst things, and you want to be aiming for the best things that we currently have. But I think I don't know, like, I think it's important for the future to be able to be looking at what the complete extremes are. Like, once you're looking past the point of what we currently have to seeing where it's going to get to a negative thing, so that you then know that you can work backwards and be like, well, we currently have this as this standard as the highest level, but then we need to go a little bit further, but not past that point. Like, if you use the actual science.
We need someone crunching the numbers.
We do.
But normally, it's just, from what we've seen so far, whenever anyone does, like, studies on tricking, it's always complete bullshit, and it's completely useless. It's useless information they gather, isn't it? Like, so far,
well,
it's always
I don't know. I've seen some things that are just interesting. I've seen some studies that are they're interesting, and it's just like that kind of bite-sized fact where it's kind of like, oh, okay, that's cool to know. Like, I can't remember what it was, but like there was something that was about, like, actual power that's being, like, generated by somebody when they're blocking out of a J step, and like, it's not going to change the game, but like, I think this kind of thing is a long way off. I feel like this kind of thing is going to be like
working out the most efficient, like, kind of step. If they could crunch the numbers and figure out what is the most efficient J step, that'd be cool.
Yeah, but I feel like that will happen like, literally, like, decades after, like, competitions where people are getting paid like tens of thousands of pounds.
Yeah, we'll get there. I think we'll see it in our lifetimes. I think we'll see
what, where someone will go into that much detail with the research.
Yeah.
You reckon?
Yeah. When there's more money in it. It's like, when there's money in it and it's getting, like, government funding, if, like, China, they want their tricking team to win
that's true,
at the Olympics or some shit, they're going to be looking at that stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
no,
I think when it becomes something where if it gets to the point where countries want their team to win, that's when shit gets serious. That's when we see roided up trickers doing the most insane things. You know?
Yeah. I don't know. It's fascinating though. Like, that whole side of, like, our sport has never ever been, like, explored in any way. To like a decent level. Instead of dickheads on an Instagram live just being like, I reckon. Nah.
I think if you split your legs really wide, it'll be really good.
If you was way stronger, like, if he just went to the gym and he just got his legs as big as possible, and then he tried the one gainer switch to end all gainer switches.
Just traveling the whole floor.
Okay, I need to address this real quick. We've got someone in the fucking Instagram live called Omid Kojo.
Yeah, I saw. Or was it Dilk said? Dilk said the mothership has landed.
And also, Jesus is my blessing commented, saying the legends.
Yo, Jesus, what legend?
What is it? Is it Shaquan? Shaquan, you are an insane person. I love you so much. And also, I watched your game of trick against is it Salef?
Salef, I don't know.
Yeah,
I think Salef.
Yeah, but that was hype. You two battling it out was sick. I want to see Shaquan at all the big events battling it out.
And screaming.
Just imagine him versus Reggie Messina. That will be game changer. I'll love it.
He'd fuck him up. He's like the anti-Messina.
Also, imagine Shaquan versus Pinto.
Oh, that'd be sick.
That would be so entertaining.
People going. I mean, Pinto's so fun to watch battling.
Yeah,
he's really good at that. He's really good at battling.
Yeah. I don't know. He's just a really good character to kind of have around. Like
Yeah.
no matter what's going on, really, it's always like a show. I always can't really believe what I'm witnessing and what I'm hearing, and like I don't know, I've got some ridiculous experiences with Pinto. Like when I was in Korea, it was just, I just won the battles in Korea. We went out almost immediately afterwards, and we all got absolutely trashed. And so it was the end of the night, and we were going home in this taxi, and Pinto was just in the back of the car, and he was on the phone, and he was getting all vexed on the phone and shit. And I was just like, what is going on? I was like kind of passed out, just like super drunk. It was like 6 a.m. And I was just, in my head, I was just thinking, Pinto is like an actual character from a TV show. Like it's fantastic. I love being around Pinto.
There's a lot of trickers like that.
Hunter's one of
Alexander.
them.
Yeah, where is he? He should be in the chat.
I know, he's normally knocking about around this time. Also, peace out, Zenix Tricking. Zenix Tricking comments on like all of my YouTube videos and all of my Instagram posts. He's a good lad.
He's a KTL OG. He's one of the people like beta testing the new site.
Word.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about the new site, or do you want to just fuck it up?
Yeah. I mean, I mention it. I've had the most delays out of anything ever that anyone's experienced.
I don't know. Brexit's beating you off.
True. Brexit's beating me, but it's not. The stressful bit. It's like it wouldn't be that bad if it was my fault. But I hate how I have nothing to do with it. I can't code. I just have to do it all through different people. Yet every delay, I gotta deal with all the hassle. But that's part of running a business.
Yeah, that's
but
just any business.
It's just,
you know what I'm saying?
It's toughened me up. It's helped me to deal with things. Like when the site got hacked, that was the worst. Because obviously, I can't personally fix that. I don't even know anything about that. So I'm trying my best to just get them to sort it out. And I just got like 100 people messaging me like, "Oh, the site's not working. I don't know if you know, but the site's not working." Every day, all night, all day.
I'd love it if you were just like, they're taking too long. Okay, they've told me that the IP address has been located in Guernsey, so you just get in your van.
I go around.
And you just go to Guernsey and just screaming, "Who's hacked me site?"
I'm like, listen, yeah, get off me website.
But you don't know the exact location.
I'm just on the street.
You're just on the street shouting about
like, who is it?
Is it you? Stopping at this old woman.
Just shaking a man. Like
shaking it all. Yo, speaking of old women. Okay, so today, I ran my first 10 miles for anyone who gives a fuck. But
legend.
I ran my first ever 10 miles. And after a bit, so I didn't intend to do 10 miles. I was just going to do like 4 or 5 miles or whatever. And I took my shirt off because I was like literally drenched in sweat. And so I'm just running around the streets in the sun, shirtless. And
of course you are. Yeah.
There was a weird moment. Like I used to find that kind of strange. I was like,
why are you shirtless?
Huh?
Why don't you just wear like a vest?
Well, I didn't think I was going to be running that long. And also after
why take it off?
Because it was like sticking to me. It was like a cotton shirt like this.
Why are you wearing a cotton shirt, Junk?
It's fine. Like normally I'm not. And also, I don't own any nylon shit. I don't like the way that sticks to me. It sticks to me in like a weird, staticky way. I'm not a huge fan.
Get a string mesh vest like Jenna.
The new phase of Omid. But anyway, there was a moment. I'm running down the street. Well, there's a couple of moments like this where people would just be like shocked and appalled at a man being shirtless. But then I think about it and I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. Like, it's sunny. And I'm sweating, and I want to not have this thing sticking to me, so I'm just gonna run shirtless. But I was running, and there's this woman. She must have been like 60 years old, and I could see her from like kind of down the way. And the closer I got, the more she was grinning. And then as I walked past, as she walked past, she went.
And then like, hello, sir.
She smiled. I just started laughing. Nearly fell down the curb. It was fucking great. I loved it. Loved every second of it.
Oh, young man Omid, ever since he shaved, turning old ladies' heads.
I got ID'd for the first time in like maybe like 8 years.
Yeah, man. Well, me and Scar got ID'd the other day. She didn't have her ID on her. They wouldn't let us have it. It was me.
Gosh, that's so funny. You getting ID'd.
I had a cap on. It's because I had my yellow cap on. They're like, oh,
yeah.
he's just a lad.
Yeah,
he's
you are.
young boy.
Actually, to be fair, I think I was wearing a cap when I went in as well. Because I'm a man who wears caps now when I'm training and stuff. So
we're capmen these days.
Capman.
Yeah, capman.
Ian Capman.
Yeah. Oh, do you know any good films for me to watch for movie night? I know it's a bit of a conversation shift, but I've got family movie. This is why we're doing the live stream early. I got family movie night tonight with the plumbers. So, what do you want to watch? What's good? You've seen anything lately?
I haven't been watching movies. I've been watching tons of documentaries.
I was thinking of the Dolomite Is My Name, that Eddie Murphy film. Might be a nice family romp.
Is that a really old one?
Nah, it's new. It's 2019.
Oh, for real? I've not heard of it.
I don't know. I'll find something.
You can't really go wrong with Eddie Murphy, but recent Eddie Murphy.
I don't know. It might be good.
Nah, I'm sure it'll be fine. Oh, you should watch. Don't Mess with the Zohan.
Oh, someone said Extraction. I saw that's meant to be good. It might be a bit too intense. It might freak out my mom though. It might be too much for get a heart pumping too hard.
Yeah, don't want to do that to.
No. I don't want to get all wild up. Aiden says, Kojo, you're my dad. Just learnt my first standing dubful, and I thought of you right after. Why? But fair enough.
No,
I never taught that trick. I'd never done that trick.
Yo, I did it one time.
Did you?
One time. Listen, I did it.
And video?
I couldn't believe it. Maybe.
You did it on flat? I've never done it on flat.
Yeah, I did it on flat. And then I said to Wayne, like, I couldn't believe it. I was just like, okay, I'm doing it now. And I just did it. And I was like, oh my God. And I scrambled away and it wasn't the best. But then I said to Wayne, I was like, Wayne, I just landed standing double full for the first time. And he was like, sick. He was like, let me see it. And so I walked over, went right next to him, tried standing double full. And I landed flat on my back. And it just bounced.
Of course
I just lay on the ground next to him and I was like, I'm sorry, Wayne.
You're lucky he didn't show you up. By the way, Wayne's the gym owner of YouTube.
Yeah, sorry.
Well, FMA. Neve landed her first J-step cork today. Yes, Nev.
Go on, Neville.
Do a combo out of it. You should do J-step cork, back sweep, 540, cart full, swing gainer if you can, or cart full to split, or cart double full if you're feeling like a big man.
Well, she can do stuff on
cart double full. She's cart dubbing on grabs.
Yeah. These days,
yeah. Yeah. What are you doing tonight, Omid?
I'm gonna do some editing, and because I've been faffing about all day, I've been playing God of War.
Of course.
Because we got the new one. Yo, dude, my feet are so swollen.
Well, from your run?
Yeah, the bottoms of my feet are so swollen. But I don't know. It makes me feel amazing. Like it's like a weird drug. I just want to keep going. Like I did 5 miles yesterday as well. I don't know. I'm just loving this whole running thing. But yeah, what was I gonna say? What am I doing tonight? I'll just do some editing, then I'll probably play God of War again.
Pass.
There's not much to do during this bloody quarantine.
There's not. It is limiting. I think I don't know. I'm just editing my Switch, the Ultimate Switch Guide. That's all I'm doing for the next few days. It's all I've been doing all week.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I'm just doing that.
What's
And I'm gonna trick tomorrow. I rested for a few days, so hopefully it's a good one. If my legs feel all right, then I could finally triple cork on grass. I just need
to bang it out tomorrow.
If it depends on my toe, because you know I told you I stubbed it.
Yeah.
So if my toe's all right, then yeah, because I know it's there. It's like if I can try it, I know I'll get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I figured some stuff out. Well, I just changed the way I thought about it last time I trained it on tramp.
Yeah.
I was thinking about, because I realized I kept landing a little bit short with my hips. So I thought instead of focusing on what my upper body does at all, I just focused on twisting my hips, like I was trying to make my hips turn me. And obviously the top half of my body knows how to twist, so it did it right.
Yeah.
And yeah, it made me like, I was really fully rotating much better. Even if I was the same height, it would just look much better. It'd be like a complete full rotation. Because normally I fully rotate my chest, but my hips lag behind sometimes. So, yeah, I think there'll be a big change to my triple cork soon, which is high.
Yeah, that's good. That's really exciting because you've done some fucked up good triple corks. So
But my hips are normally lagging still. Even when I land it really easy, then my upper body's round fine. But I don't know. I need to make sure I twist my hips.
yeah, I don't know. I'm really excited to start training triple cork again. I just don't really have. I don't really have the method to do so right now safely because I'm not going to be trying triple cork on grass anytime in the next few years, really. Unless
you could do it like next summer. You just need to be in a gym and train like a lot of them. Like when the gyms reopen, I was talking to Matt about this. I really want to have like one power session a week, like a pure power session where I just do combos I've been working on and just try and do all of them to like triple corks and dubs and just shit, like just raw twisting, really. I want to have one raw twisting session per week. Try and go through as many different like dub setups and triple cork setups as I can in one sesh. That'd be hype.
No, I'm trying to do things like that. I just want to. I don't know. It is kind of weird how much importance we place on these tricks because like we put so much on it. It's like our lives. And I just think sometimes, like, when I was really young, I never ever thought, because like these things just seemed so out of reach to me. Because I remember back in the Bebo days, I posted a free running video, and I posted a free running video on my Bebo. I must have been like 11 years old or something, and I remember saying, "This is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I want to do this." And I watched a bunch of free running videos and stuff, but it was just like so out of reach for me. And like thinking about it, like my life, I never would have guessed ever that it would have gone down this path.
But so you say, because you got me thinking with that, the first thing you said as well. We put so much importance on these tricks, and it's like, do we? Because I see it in some ways like if I'm putting importance on a trick, I'm putting importance on a challenge. It's a physical, measurable challenge. It's like definitely hard. If I were to do, let's say, something really double cork swing, triple cork, it's a hard thing to do. So I kind of see it more as like, well,
individual
not more,
things.
In some ways, it's like just putting importance on breaking boundaries, really. Like the actual trick itself, I don't know how much that matters. I just know that whenever I achieve a really hard goal, then it makes me a better person in some ways, and it makes me able to deal with more in every area of life. I don't think it's as much about just the actual trick itself. I think the trick is just, tricking is kind of a medium to like work on yourself.
Yeah,
you're improving your tricks, and you have to put loads of work into that, and from that you improve yourself as well.
No, I feel that. I mean, I feel like it's. I agree. I mean, I think it's a strange manner to do that in, because like for me, tricking has been like a mental thing for me for many years. It's all about, like you say, like overcoming those challenges, and like I think I got my first real taste of what it was like when I was chasing triple cork for the first time, and that alone taught me probably more than anything I've ever experienced. Like in terms of like what I'm capable of, the way life really works. And it's all just because of this one trick. And because I was like, okay, so once I land this triple cork, I'm going to be so happy. And obviously I was, but then I was hit with the reality, which is kind of the same as everything else in life. Just because you do it one time doesn't mean to say you're going to be able to repeat it. You've got to put in all that time and effort and understanding so that you can progress and get to the point where you can do it consistently. And especially with like trying to run our own businesses and stuff, like it kind of, I don't know, it bleeds over into absolutely every single thing that we do.
I never would have been able to run a business without doing tricking first. It's because tricking teaches you that failing doesn't mean that it's over. That's
it's not the end.
The road to success. And it's one thing to understand that, but when you've actually lived it, then you get it on a different level. You feel
very different.
You don't feel disheartened by something like not working out at all, because you know if you keep working, it's going to work out eventually. And I feel like if you never learn that lesson, you can't do hard things, really.
Well, the patience that you have to have in order to be like successful in this sport, because like you can't, you can get away with like having no patience for a small period of time, but in the grand scheme of your life, like being able to get away with having zero patience for like 2 or 3 years, that's fuck all when you're going to be living to like 60, 70, 80 years old. And it's just not going to work. You're never going to really excel in anything if you're not patient, because sorry, excuse me, all of the hardest and best, all of the best things in life come through difficult and I don't know, like,
it's not a heroic act. It's
exactly.
Like, it's like through daily practices over the course of years. They come through applying a mindset and a work ethic over a period of years, rather than just one day being like, all right, today's the day. Like,
I know
that's how all good things come.
That's really probably the biggest thing that I've learned from tricks. Like that, I don't know, the best things come from suffering. And like, even down to like why I'm running right now, it's because like, it hurts and it is difficult and it's like just as much mental as it is physical. But every single time I come back from a run, no matter what's gone on in my day, I know that I've come back from a period of time and I'm just a better person as a result of it, because I've pushed myself physically, mentally, and I've suffered as a result of it. And I'm going to continue suffering because my body hurts and like I'm exhausted, but I just keep pushing through. And I know the next week I'm going to be stronger, and the next week I'm going to be stronger. And I don't know, it's the best thing.
As well as the feeling of like overcoming the challenge, I think some of that as well is like how contrast is what really makes you happy. Because most people, like, you ask them what makes them happy, and lots of the time, I bet it probably doesn't. You know, like if you, I don't know what people normally enjoy. Maybe going out
for food with their pals.
Going out for food. It's like if you were always out for food, you probably wouldn't enjoy it that much. And it's like the longer it's been since you last went out for food, the more you're going to enjoy it. It's the same as if you sleep in a bed. Sleeping in a bed, it just doesn't really mean much. But if you sleep on a cold floor with no pillow or anything, then you really appreciate sleeping in a bed. Sleeping in a bed's amazing. It's all just perspective. It's like the change from bad to good is like what makes you happy, rather than just good. If you just have good, that's why a lot of, rich people getting addicted to drugs and get depressed and kill themselves, like celebrities and stuff. It's because if you just have good, it's like, it's not actually that good. The change is what makes you happy. Yeah. That's why trick is so good, because it's always changing. You're always changing. There's always downs. There's always ups. That's why it's so good and why it keeps you engaged. If it was just all good, if you just went to trick and it went great every time, then you wouldn't get as much joy from it. If you didn't have the periods of being injured with whatever or having bad sessions for whatever reason, then it wouldn't mean so much when it does go well.
Yeah, no, it's true. I don't know. Like, yeah, I love the whole, like, it's so strange because tricking is like having another life, and you kind of get to test. You kind of get to test real life through this secondary life that you have. It's like the perfect testing ground for anything that you're ever going to have to deal with in every other walk of your life, but there's not the same consequences. Obviously, the consequences, you can get injured and like it can mentally destroy you, as it has for both of us many times, but it's a lot safer than, I don't know, like the real world application of like, instead of just being annoyed because you can't get your fix of doing tricks, imagine you ended up going down the path where it was like drugs or whatever the case may be, or like, you know, things like that. And I think it's crazy how we've been able to channel this kind of, I don't know, testing grounds for ourselves and be able to build ourselves up both mentally and physically. Because at the end of the day, like, if it wasn't for tricks, I probably wouldn't be training to the extent that I am at this age.
That's true.
Like, even all the things that I do outside, like outside of tricks, like I probably wouldn't be running right now. And if I did, there wouldn't, like, it's a lot harder to do the things, like, I don't know, there's certain things that I don't really enjoy. I don't really enjoy lifting legs. But if it wasn't for tricking, I probably wouldn't do it anywhere near as much as I do.
It makes you do things you don't enjoy. And
Yeah,
doing
exactly.
things you don't enjoy is generally kind of good for you in some ways. I wanted to respond to one of these comments as well, because it's a really good one, actually. Could you still be used to good stuff, but make the effort to take a step back and be grateful for everything? Gratitude is underrated, I think. And I agree with that.
I agree,
think
yeah.
you could be used to good stuff, and like taking a step back and appreciating it is something you can do. But I think it's incredibly hard to do if your life is only good stuff. Now, like I don't know, I'm sure most people have some bad things in their life, but if everything was going truly like fantastically, I think you'd have a tough time doing that. I think that'd be really hard. That's why, like, even now, because at Hooked, so one of the nights at Hooked, I ended up in Kyle and Peen's room after we were out in Amsterdam, and there was no bed for me, and it was already like 4 a.m. and I didn't even know if I had a bed at the place where I was meant to be sleeping. So I was like, oh, I'll just sleep on the floor. And it was just like a hard floor with no covers or anything. And I'm glad that happened. And every time things like that do happen, I'm glad in some way, because now if I'm lying in bed and I'm struggling to sleep and I just feel like, oh, why can't I fall asleep? I hate this. I just think back to that and think, how happy would I have been if I could be sleeping in this bed at that moment in time? So I'm glad that moment happened, because it makes me feel good every time I can't fall asleep. So I agree with what you said, but I think it's a good way to do that. Yeah, a good way to do that is to think back to like some of the hardest moments where things were shit, and use that to feel good about how things are now. So, I agree. But
I agree with everything you just said as well. But I think even if you do have everything in your life that is like it's kind of great, I think, well, regardless of whether that's the case, I think if you actively seek things that are going to make you suffer in some way, like not like, I don't know, not like that kind of emotional suffering, like I don't know, you kill your family pet or something like that. Like, don't do that. But I'm talking like, I don't know, like pushing yourself physically or mentally, like test yourself in as many ways as you can. Like, I think being stagnant is what's going to kind of cause contempt within your life, because otherwise you're going to just kind of get used to that good, and then you're also not going to be able to deal with it if things ever change. Because like some of the highest points of my life, some of the best things that have ever gone on in my life, they have never ever come without any, like, a crash. Everything always has peaks and troughs, and if you can't deal with the lows, then there's not even any point having the highs, because you're never going to be able to get back up to that high if you can't deal with the lowest points. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's a big part as to why I'm trying to do the thing that I'm doing. Well, the running,
I think it'll definitely help. You know? Dilk says, got to fill that cookie jar. Get a bit the Goggins references in.
Yeah.
What's everyone else saying?
This guy went to juvie.
He went to juvie. Yeah, you could definitely use that. I mean, life's probably better now that you're not in juvie, isn't it? So that's
Imagine
good.
that.
That's good.
It's lovely.
Schlumlis.
Schlummels.
My dinner's just arrived.
That's
Lucky
bloody
Kojo.
lovely.
What a time to be alive, eh?
Should we all say one thing that we're grateful for in the comments?
Yeah, say one thing you're grateful for in the comments.
And me and Kojo will say one thing that we're grateful for.
Go on. What are you grateful for, Omid?
I'm grateful for my legs.
That's a good one.
Yeah, because like there's many people that are just born, got no legs. Imagine that. You're born, got no legs.
Well, I tell you, one of the things I'm most grateful for, and after having traveled and been to lots of trickers' houses and seeing different people's like family dynamics and stuff, and seeing like people who are really rich and shit like that, I'm grateful for having two parents who are together and love each other and are nice people, because I think you're better off with that. Even if your parents are millionaires, like multi-millionaires, you're still going to have a worse life if your parents are like either dickheads or if they hate each other. Your life is worse, in my opinion.
Yeah, I can vouch for that.
Oh, Lurk says Kojo was shocking and boring. Kojo was shocking and boring at Rush. How can you be shocking and boring at the same time? They're like complete opposites. And also, I don't know. I don't know how to, like, I don't know how you can, like, Kojo was super entertaining and surprising and really boring at Rush. It's like,
I mean,
well, I don't know.
You should have that. You should have that on your gravestone.
I should. Shocking and boring.
Sam Kojo. Sometimes you can be.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's because I was at work and I couldn't just do what everyone wanted all the time, and I had to do my job from time to time. Maybe it was that. I don't know.
Maybe. Might have something to do with it. To manage your confidence. Lovely.
Doing my job.
Oh god. Yeah, that's a good thing. I don't know, like the pandemic's made me so grateful for
just
so
for being able to
many
go outside.
things.
Yeah.
Well, not just be. You see, I don't know. My thing is not being able to go outside. I want to go from inside to another place inside.
To a coffee shop.
Yeah, I just miss coffee shops so bad. Oh my god, it's like a genuine thing. Every day, I just think to myself, this would be, no matter what I'm doing, I could just be, I don't know, I could be crying, and I'm thinking, this would be way better if I was in a coffee shop.
It'll come. Our time will come. We'll be back in the coffee shops, killing it.
Yeah. I think I'm going to go and get a little coffee tomorrow.
That sounds lovely.
Yeah.
Quality content right there. Top-notch content. People should pay for this.
It's okay. You can just send me money directly if you want.
Well, someone said, honestly, the pandemic has made my tricking exponentially better because I have time to focus on everything. And I get what you mean there. The pandemic has made me train on grass consistently. Yeah. So it's actually, after 10 years of training, it's changed the way I view grass. I didn't realize that if I consistently trained on it, then it would start to feel more like a spring floor and I'd be able to do harder moves without hurting myself. I didn't realize that if I just got really used to it, it wouldn't be that bad. So I feel like that will stick with me. Even though I train in gyms again, at least now I know that if I put a lot of time in on grass, I can do good things. So that's a really big one for me as well.
Yeah. I'm really grateful for being able to actually train outside. Like the weather, even down to like the weather, because imagine if throughout this pandemic, it was just pissing it down outside the whole time. Also, 30 seconds left. All right, okay. Let's wrap it up then, because Kojo's got a mouthful of yam.
It's a chicken goujon. It was £1 for a whole
Jesus.
for a whole box of goujons.
Well, that's lovely. Right, thank you for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. Much love. See you soon.
Peace.
Peace.